Hey everyone, Frankie here. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos in which I introduce you to different Cantonese textbooks. Over the years, I bought an awful lot of Cantonese textbooks all the way from the basic to the most advanced levels, and I thought about making some videos that will introduce all of the positive and negative aspects of each book to you guys, so that way if you're interested in learning Cantonese and you're not sure which textbook is right for you, you can watch these videos and then decide which textbook you think is the best fit for your particular level of Cantonese. So I'm going to start off really basic with Basic Cantonese by Virginia Yip and Stephen Matthews. For those of you who have seen my other video, you would know who Virginia Yip and Stephen Matthews are. They've published several textbooks. Virginia Yip is a professor of modern linguistics at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and Stephen Matthews is a professor of linguistics, just linguistics, at the Hong Kong Chinese University. They published several textbooks, one of them being Basic Cantonese, the next one Intermediate Cantonese, Cantonese a Comprehensive Grammar, and finally The Bilingual Child. The Bilingual Child is a book that they wrote together about their own child. Stephen Matthews speaks English, and his wife, Virginia Yip, speaks Cantonese, and what they basically did is they only spoke to their child in either Cantonese or English, and then they documented how the child acquired both languages and how proficient he was as he grew up, and etc., etc. It's really interesting if you're really interested in like language acquisition, or if you're interested in linguistics. It's a really good book. It's actually really nice. I've read it. So anyway, Basic Cantonese. What are the positive aspects? Well, there's a bunch. The first one is that the book is super common. You could probably buy this at most bookstores. If they have a Cantonese textbook, it's most likely this one, or it's a phrase book, which are kind of crap. But this is the first. I mean, if you really want to get interested in learning Cantonese, this is the bread and butter of books. This is the real thing. Another thing I like about this book, I think is really important for beginners, is that there are 3 lessons in the beginning that give you an introduction to Cantonese Pinyin. What is Cantonese Pinyin? Basically, Cantonese Pinyin is the romanization of the way things sound in Cantonese, but in English. So in other words, the word for ngo, which means I, is romanized as NGOH with an accent mark over it, indicating the tone goes down or up, etc., etc. I'll show you that in a second. This book is broken up into 29 different lessons, 28 and 29 different lessons, which each deal with a different grammatical aspect. Again, this is called a grammar and workbook, and that's literally what it is. It teaches you a grammatical aspect, and it kind of just throws you right in there. It'll teach you like how to say a time, personal pronouns, I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, and etc., etc. Aspect markers, passive tones, and just all these different things. I think it's very good. It's not really the same kind of like traditional textbook that'll have like a story and then grammatical explanations and then vocabulary list. That's one of the negative aspects. If you're more interested in that type of book, then you can take a look at Teach Yourself Cantonese. I think it's a complete Cantonese, a Teach Yourself guide, which I'm going to make a video on later. Again, another negative aspect is that there are no CDs to this book, so you won't be able to hear what you're learning. Another negative aspect, there are no Chinese characters and no vocabulary lists. So the no Chinese characters, that's a big blow to this book, because native Cantonese speakers cannot read Pinyin. This book uses Yale Pinyin, the Yale romanization method, which is the most common Cantonese romanization method out there. There's another one which is called Yutping, which is popular among the Cantonese Linguistic Society of Hong Kong, but I don't think it's that good. I personally like the Yale romanization method. It's also the method that's used at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, which is the best school in the world that teaches Cantonese. They use Yale romanization. You can buy this book online for about $20 to $30, I think. Around $25 to $35 on Amazon. I'm going to post a link in the description so you can take a look at it. Let me show you a page in the book so you can get an idea what it looks like. Okay, here we go. Okay, adverbs of frequency and duration. You can see on the right side, once, twice, 3 times, several times, and usually. Once, you can see, is written in the Yale romanization method, which is in bold print. And then you can see the accent mark over the A in the YAT. which means that it's tone 1. The way that's pronounced is yati, yati, and then twice. You can see that there's an accent mark that's going up, and there's an H, which signifies that that is tone 5, I believe. The low rising tone, which is 冷起, 冷起. The third one, 3 times. 三起, 三起. You can see that's also the same as the first one, is tone 1. Next one, 给起, 给起, which means several times. The accent mark over the E in gay, you can see that is going up. That signifies tone 2, which is the high rising tone. There's no H, which would mean that it's tone 2. You will learn that as you learn the Yale romanization method. And the last one, 通省, 通省. That means usually tone 1 followed by tone 4, the low falling tone, which literally goes to the very bottom of your register. And so there you have it. That's one of the lessons. That lesson is entitled Adverbs of Time, Frequency, and Duration. Flip up a couple pages, and you can take a look at some of the exercises. Okay, state how long you do the following every day. Play video games. Da gay, which means hit the machine. So I guess that's play video games. And then you would say how long. And you could say, 我通常打機, 通常打機, I usually or sometimes play games, whatever. And then they'll have other exercises like this one here, which will kind of be like fill in the blanks. I can't really see it. And again, no Chinese characters whatsoever. It's just really easy to understand, Yale romanization with the tone markers on top. And that's it. There's an answer key in the back for those of you who aren't familiar with the different linguistic terminology, because this book explains Cantonese using a lot of linguistic terminology and grammatical terms, which you might not be familiar with if you're not from a linguistic background. But there's an index with a little glossary that has an explanation of all different grammatical terms in Cantonese, so you might find that useful. For example, it'll tell you what, transitive verb, passive, predicate, demonstrative, classifier, auxiliary, aspect, antonym, measure words, etc., etc., etc. And you might need to know what those are. And it kind of gives you a few examples, actually. It tells you, okay, an aspect, a grammatical distinction involving whether an event is seen as complete, as in the Cantonese perfective form, 走, which means past tense. So it gives you an idea of what it is, and it also gives you an example, a direct example, so you can kind of get an idea of what it really is. And you can also Google that type of stuff, but some people might see that as a negative aspect of this book because it's, pun, because it's coming from a linguistic, perspective. So it's not like, hey guys, let's learn how to speak Cantonese, nei hou ma, and let's go right into how are you, and etc., etc. This book just tackles things as different grammatical aspects, so that might be a negative thing with the book. But anyway, that was Basic Cantonese by Virginia Yip and Stephen Matthews. Positive aspects, 3 lessons of Pinyin. It's easy to find anywhere on the internet. Amazon is about $20 to $30. There's a second book that comes right after it, 29 lessons, and no Chinese characters. The negative aspects, there are no Chinese characters, no CDs, so you can't hear how things are pronounced. You have to guess based on the way that they're described in here. There's no vocabulary lists. And so the no Chinese characters and no CDs put you in a really uncomfortable position, because native speakers will not, and I repeat, will not be able to read what is in this book. 9 out of 10 times they will not know how to read what's in this book. They won't be able to read the Pinyin, the Yale romanized Pinyin, and say the word in Cantonese. They can guess based on the English, but they will not be able to read it off with you. So that is definitely a negative aspect of this particular book. And that goes along with the intermediate Cantonese as well. I would suppose they're gonna publish another edition later on that has the Cantonese characters in there. But from what I've heard from the author, they didn't do it because it would have cost more, because they would have had to make the book bigger. So they just said, forget about it. Let's just write it in English and romanize it or whatever. So anyway, that's Basic Cantonese by Virginia Stephen Matthews. Stay tuned for my next video where I'll review a different Cantonese book. Until then, bye-bye.